Louie tie on straight. Ready to look at the camera? You're just so good today. Oh, and try not to yawn, okay? Because you kind of do that sometimes. All right. Hello, my sweet friends, and welcome to DIY with Nadia. I hope that wherever you are, it feels like spring, because today I'm sharing my top 10 favorite spring wreaths. Let's get started. For today's wreath, I'm starting with this metal wreath form from the Dollar Tree, which is 14 inches. Then I'm going to be using this Deco mesh from Joann's, and this one is 21 inches by 18 feet. And then I'm going to be using this gorgeous ribbon that I got online. Look at this. So beautiful with the elegant pink roses, and I'm going for elegance with this wreath. Then I'm going to be using this wire jute ribbon. It's 4 inches in width right here, and in length it's 21 feet. For the centerpiece of my little ribbon bundles, I'm going to be using this beautiful ranunculus from the Dollar Tree, and they're pink, and you are going to need 18 of these along with 18 pipe cleaners. If you've seen this before, you can just skip this part to the next part, but I'm going to go over really quickly how I put the pipe cleaners on my wreath form. And this is a process that used to scare me when I saw these wreaths with all of these pipe cleaners sticking out. It was so overwhelming, but in reality, it's not. So we have a wreath form from the Dollar Tree. It has 6 sections. In each section, we're going to put 3 pipe cleaners, which is going to give us a total of 18 pipe cleaners. First pipe cleaner, you can put either on the first row, or I kind of started doing it on the first 2 rows. So I'm just going to put it straight in the middle of the first 2 rows, just like that. And I'm going to face this one inside. This is just basically easier when we're working to find our pipe cleaners because you have all this mesh on top. And then the other 2 are going to go to the side of the center one on rows 3 and 4, and that's it. So just think of this as one section at a time, and we only have 3 per section, 1 on row 1 and 2 going inside, and then 2 pipe cleaners going on row 2 and 3 to the side of our center one. This is what your wreath is going to look like when it's all done. Before I bring my mesh in, let me just explain how this is going to work. I call this method a spiral method because whether you're working from outside in or inside out, it's still going to be the same thing. So what we're going to do is work on our first row from the inside right here. So if I'm starting right here, I'm going to go all the way around and make 10-inch loops going all the way around, then come back to this spot and then complete my little loop. And then I'm going to go on this next section, not on the next pipe cleaner, because 10 inches from here and here is just a little too much. So we're going to go to the next section, to the pipe cleaner there. And from here, we are going to start making 10-inch loops going all the way around. And then we're just going to cut the Deco mesh off and zip tie it in place. And we're also going to zip tie when we begin. Let's grab our beautiful Deco mesh, and I'm going about 2 inches in and just collecting that tail. Bring it in, and I'm going to put it on one of my inside pipe cleaners. Give it 2 tight twists to make sure it's nice and secure. Then I'm going to grab a zip tie, and I'm going to zip tie it to the second row right here. The first row is going to be against the wall, so I don't want any zip tie to maybe scratch the wall. So that's why I'm going up a little bit, because that second row is higher than our first row. And I'm just going to zip tie it in place about 1 inch from where we have our pipe cleaner. This is going to just straighten out our tail, and I just zip tied it as tight as I can and cut that tail off. This tail right here is going to get covered by the loop that's going to go from this pipe cleaner to this pipe cleaner. And then we're also going to have decor or ribbon on each section, so don't worry about this. It's going to get covered up. I usually use 10-inch loops for this method, and 10 inches on my board is right here, this light square. So I'm going to put the beginning of my pipe cleaner right at the beginning of my little square. Then I'm going to keep it nice and tight and go to the end right here. I got my 10 inches, and then I'm going to go up, and I'm making sure that everything bubbles up. I'm kind of doing everything right now, so we don't have to worry about it later. And then we're going to go to the next pipe cleaner, tie it in, and give it 2 good twists so it's locked in place. And then I'm going to take my pipe cleaners and straighten them up. This way we can find them when we're actually attaching the ribbon. Next loop, 10 inches, same thing. I'm going to straighten it out right now. Because this is 21-inch Deco mesh, I find it easier to make sure that everything's in place as we're going along. Same thing, nice and tight here, and 2 good twists, and we are good to go. Look at this. This is going to be such a beautiful and full wreath. Okay, I'm on my last loop in my first row right here, and I'm just going to, there you go, complete the loop. And then I'm going to go to the next section. I'm in this section right now, and I'm going to go to the next pipe cleaner, which is right there. So let me measure out my 10 inches, and I'm going to go right here. And we're just going to continue to do the same thing. Make sure you keep your pipe cleaners going up so you can find them when we are all done, because as you can see, this is a very full and beautiful wreath. And I'm coming to my last loop. Look how full and gorgeous this wreath is. Oh my goodness. All right, I'm going to measure off my last 10 inches. And because this Deco mesh was only 18 feet, this is all I have left pretty much here. So let me just cut this off. Regular Deco mesh rolls are 10 yards, and you pretty much need 5 yards for one of these wreaths. Let me lock it in. And then from the back, it'll be easier to see when I whip my zip tie out. And I'm just going to pull it back, and I'm going to try to tie it to row 3, because just like row 1, row 4 is going to be against the wall. So I like to tie it to either rows 2 or 3. And then this part right here, I'm just going to twist it back. And that's it. You have a nice smooth backing on here. And this is what the wreath looks like from the back. This wreath is so pretty as it is, but we do need to decorate it a little bit. Rose ribbon first, and I'm going to be making 12-inch strips. I got 18 strips of my ribbon, all 12 inches long. And now I'm going to go around and make my little dovetails here. Just like that. In one swoop, you got 2, just fold it in half, and then fold it in half on top, and just go like that. Now for this ribbon, it is 21 feet long. 21 feet is 252 inches, and we only need 216 inches when we're going to be cutting it into 12-inch strips. So we should have some left over. All these pieces are wired, so I'm just going to use scissors for this one. I'm going to be cutting in the center of a row, so if I need to move a little bit over, I will, especially that I know I am going to have some left over. And then the endings here, this is how we're going to leave them on the wreath. Next, I'm going to add this beautiful pink ribbon that's going to work really well with this ribbon. And as you can see, this one on top of it, this is what's going to give us that little bit of elegance. This one's not wired. It's just a regular satin ribbon, and it is 18 yards and 1.5 inches in width. I'm going to cut it into 12-inch strips, then make little dovetails when I'm done with that. And then we'll be ready to make our little bundles. Now it's time to start making our bundles. I'm going to grab our mesh ribbon first, and I'm just going to put it straight. Then I'm going to grab the ribbon that does not have any wired edging, so that on top of that, I can put the ribbon that does have wired edging, and we can decorate and kind of control that a little bit more. And just like that, I'm going to bring it together right here in the middle. And I'm just kind of putting it together just like that, and start attaching them to our little pipe cleaners. You can take care of the pipe cleaners now or later, because I know I'm going to be putting a floral in the center. I really don't need the pipe cleaner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist it until about 1 inch in, just to kind of lock it in place. Then I'm going to cut the pipe cleaner, fold it in half, and then fold the pipe cleaner back, and we're all set. As far as laying this out the way I want it, I'm going to do that at the end. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and do all my little bundles. Well, what do you guys think? I think it ended up being so beautiful and elegant, and I believe that the secret to any wreath having that elegance to it is to have some sort of netting to it because it just gives this kind of vintage and elegant vibe. Now I'm grabbing my ranunculus, and you need 4 bushels or 4 picks of these because they come with 5 flowers on each one of them, and we're going to need 18. These come off the stem really easily, and so now all I have to do is a little bit of hot glue, and I'm going to put them at the center of each one of my bundles. For our sign, I'm going to be using this little board from the Dollar Tree. And the first thing I'm going to do is remove the little dream wording on there. This is going to be the back, but I didn't want this to be on there. Next, I'm grabbing a sandpaper, and I'm just going to sand it down just to rough it up so that when we put Mod Podge on it, it's going to hold really well. And then I'm going to grab one of my favorite calendars from the Dollar Tree this year, and it's this Blessings Bloom. But of course, you can use anything you have on hand. Since I'm in the floral mood, I decided to go with this one right here, Blessings Bloom. The one I'm going to be using is actually the one on the cover right here. Next, I'm trying to find the center, and since the lettering is already in the center, I'm just going to go off the side, and I'm just going to kind of press it so I know where to put it on. I'm using a regular matte Mod Podge that I got at Michael's. I'm just putting it on. Look at that, look how pretty that is. To keep it tight while it's drying, I'm just going to put some tape in the back. Now that it's all set on here, I'm going to cut this off a little bit. Grabbing some strong tape, tape it to the back of the sign. Now I'm just going to add some pipe cleaners to the back of my sign. And I'm going to do what I usually do. Make a flat surface in the middle of my pipe cleaner. Put it straight onto the hot glue. And then put more hot glue on top. While it's still hot, I'm going to put a little bit of a ribbon on here. You can use fabric, whatever you have on hand. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I'm going to let the hot glue cool, and it's ready to go on my wreath. The wreath is all done, all the flowers are in, and now we're going to put our little sign. And I think this is so perfect because it has roses. It's perfect for spring and summer, and it does have a little shimmer to it because the lettering have that little gold foiling on it. And I'm just going to put my pipe cleaners through the wreath here, the center, if I can find it. It's so floofy. And I'm just going to attach it to an intersection right here. And as always, I do the first kind of attachment very lightly, and then the second one's going to be after I make sure that I have the sign in the place that I want it. And when I mean intersection, I mean where the rows are crossing right here. That way I know it's going to stay solid. It's not going to go up and down as it's hanging. And let's just do a check, and I like it like that. And since I do like it, I'm going to go back and finish just tightening these up. And that's it. Our wreath is ready to go on our door. Here are the basics that you're going to need to make this 5-gallon stir stick swag or centerpiece. I'm starting with 8 pipe cleaners, a 22 gauge wire. This one I cut to 20 inches, a 5-gallon stir stick. I got this one at my hardware store. Some ribbon. I got a 2.5-inch ribbon and 1.5-inch ribbon, and these I got at Craft Outlet. Everything I'm going to use in this video, I'm going to have in the description box below, and also where I got everything. Then I'm going to use some soft poly mesh. This soft poly mesh I got at Hobby Lobby. It is 10 inches by 6 yards, and I like using this when I'm doing something continuous, or you can also use these when making some beautiful flower wreaths, but I'm going to be using this for the swag. Then you're going to need a roll of white Deco mesh. This one is from the Dollar Tree, 6 inches by 5 yards. And the nice thing about the white Deco mesh from the Dollar Tree, it's going to just bring this yellow out. It's going to soften it up. It's going to be so so pretty. And then we're going to use some florals. These I got on clearance from Joann Fabrics. We're going to be using these beautiful florals as part of our decor. The first thing I want to do is attach a loop to my swag. If you're not going to hang it, you can just skip this part, but I always attach it regardless, just in case I'm going to put it as a centerpiece this year and decide to hang it next year. And I'm just going to eye this. I want 2/3 to be on one side and 1/3 to be on the other. And I'm going to bring it in right there at the narrowest part. And I'm going to give it a good twist right in the middle, just like that. Next, I'm going to take both wires and just twist them together. This is what's going to give you strength. After I twisted it just like this, just to make it stronger, the part that's doubled, that is going to be my loop. And this single part, the one that's left over, I'm going to put it underneath here, pull it through just like this, and I have some double right here. And this is the part where I'm going to twist it. You have your loop right there. And then this leftover part, I'm first going to give it a few twists, and then I'm going to give it a few twists around this part right here. The end of it, I just kind of put it underneath, and I'm going to just flip it over. And that's it. I'm really pulling right now. It is going nowhere. Now that the loop is in, we can flip our stir stick and start putting in our pipe cleaners. I always like to start with the middle. My middle is at 10.5 inches. So I'm going to grab a pipe cleaner and I'm going to pull it to one side right there at the 10.5 inches. And there at the side, I'm going to give it 2 twists and just let the pipe cleaners go right there. Then I'm going to grab another one at the same spot, but on this one, I'm going to tie it on this side. We're going to give it 2 twists and just lay it down. Next, you want to go about 2.5 inches from the sides, and I usually go right underneath where we have our little loop right here to hang, right underneath that. And then I'm going to put one on one side, just like we did that middle one on the other. I'm going to do the same thing from this side, and you are going to be right on the money at 2.5 inches on this side because you have the measurements right there. The 2 leftover pipe cleaners, we are just going to put in the middle of both of these and tie them in the center on top of our stir stick, not on the sides like we've been doing. And our yardstick is ready. So we have double, single, double, single, double. The last step we want to do before we put our ribbon on is secure the pipe cleaners in place. And I'm using some hot glue and I'm putting it straight over the pipe cleaners. I'm the most concerned about this bottom one, so I'm going to put a piece of felt on it. Just like that. And I'm going to secure it even more in place on top. The rest of them, I'm just going to hot glue, and it's going to hold on really easy because we're dealing with raw wood. Now it's time to attach the Deco mesh. And I like to unroll it just like it kind of unrolls from the top. And then on top, we are going to put our white Deco mesh. About 2 inches in, we are going to start gathering. Make sure you lay it nice and flat here and give it a good twist or 2. This is how I'm going to attach it. I'm going to go from this double to this double to this double, make a loop right here, then double, double, make a loop right here and come back to where we started. I'm going to be doing 12-inch loops on the sides, and you can definitely do these by eye. This is not something that needs to be very specific or anything. A nice tight twist and just bow it out. Another 12 inches. The loops that I'm going to be making at the bottom and at the top, I'm going to make a little smaller, so let's call it maybe 10 inches. But as I said, you can definitely do this by eye. We're just going to loop this over, 2 twists. We're taking it to the center, another 10 inches for this top loop, and I'm going right where I started working. Then we want to cover this part. So basically for bigger loops, I'm going to be doing 12 inches. For smaller loops, I'm going to be doing 10 inches. Now I'm going from this single one that I have at the bottom, And I'm going to go back to it after making a 10-inch loop that's going to cover this area just like we covered that top right there. Our last loop is going to be going back from this single one to this single one, and that is going to be it for our ribbon. So I'm going to measure and then I'm going to cut it off. Next, I'm going to take my beautiful 1.5 inch ribbon and I'm going to cut it into 24-inch strips. You are going to need 6 strips. After I have my 6 strips, I'm going to cut the edges. And the way I cut mine is I fold the ends in half and make little triangles going from the inside of the ribbon towards the outside. On all the doubles on the stir stick, which means both ends and the center, we're going to put sweet little bows. And here's how I make them. I have my ribbon right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it kind of like an awareness ribbon and make sure it's face up. When I have it face up, I'm going to go right there from the end to the corner, and I'm going to go on my board where it says 4 inches right there, just like this. And then I'm just going to grab it right here in the center, pull it on top. That's my center on top. Bring it in, and there's my bow. Squeeze it and just attach it with a pipe cleaner. At this point, I'm going to just tie the pipe cleaner off a little bit. Grab my little clippers, cut it about 1 inch from where I attached, fold it in half and fold it back. You're going to make some sweet little bows. Next, I'm going to take my greenery pieces, and where we have our singles, that is where I'm going to attach them. So I'll take whatever the main stem of the flower is, point it down, and right there in the back, we are going to twist in place. And then you can use the tails to kind of web in between the greenery so it holds in place. Just like this, I'm going to grab the leftover tail and just branch it around something else. Just twist it around. That way it's nice and secure. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Remove our tag. Once our greenery is on, we are ready to do the center. I'm going to use my big pink ribbon as basically the tails to have some pink. My pink ribbon is wired. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure off 14 inches on each side. We're going to make dovetails on the ends here. To make it easier, I'm just going to grab a bow maker. So I have my pipe cleaner. Going to put it just like that. Then I have my tails. Just grab it and put it in the center. Just like that. And now we're gonna get this gorgeous ribbon going. So I'm going to just kind of measure off, make the tail the same height. This one is double-sided, so we are going to be doing some twists. We're going to make 5-inch loops. So I'm going to do a big fluffy bow on this one. And we're gonna twist, and every time we're in the center here, we are twisting. I decided I want tails on both ends, so I'm going to make 2 more loops with the tail going this way. When you're doing 2 tails, you can either do it the way I did it, just do 2 tails and then do another bow, or you can make a 4-loop bow going this way with the tails and then a 4-loop bow going the other one, or just make an 8-loop bow and then tails here, tails there. Really doesn't matter because you're going to end up poofing all of this up. Before I go on, I'm just going to make dovetails on all these tails that I didn't do it on. Bring it up, and now I'm going to flatten all of this down. And it's important to flatten because we have a lot of twists there. 2 good twists. Then I'm gonna go in the back. I'm going to give it 1 twist in the back just to bring the pipe cleaners together in the back. And now I'm ready to put it onto my swag. On my swag, I'm just going to put it in the middle. And the middle is easy to find because don't forget we have a double pipe cleaner right here in the middle. So just like that, I'm going to lock it in place. And now I'm ready to poof it out. Get my tail sorted here. In order to make a smooth transition, I kind of twist as I loop these up. There you go. I'm going to put the pink ones in the center right here because there's not many of them. And then the other ones going towards the side. And then I decided to add something. I have a little pink butterfly from the Dollar Tree, and I decided to put it right there, kind of making it look like it's sitting on the greenery. And it does have a little wire that you can attach it with. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to just kind of put it right there and attach it probably to the Deco mesh here because it's the easiest to kind of stick it there. And then there you go. We even have a sweet little butterfly on the side here. And now I'm just going to make sure all my pretty little bows are nice and fluffy. And this swag or centerpiece is all done. For this wreath, I'm using a Dollar Tree wreath form. This one's 14 inches and it's in the neutral color. Then I'm using 4 rolls of Deco mesh, 2 yellow, 2 blue, some beautiful florals, some pipe cleaners. I cut these in half. And then I'm also going to use zip ties. When making loops, you might need to use a ruler if you're not doing it by eye, or some kind of a measuring mat. And then I'm also going to add some ribbon here. This ribbon I got at Hobby Lobby for $3.99. It's the best to get it on sale when you can. And that's why you plan ahead. So there's the yellow. And this one is actually from the Dollar Tree. And get this, it's 6 yards, which is amazing. Starting with the yellow Deco mesh, I'm going to layer them yellow, yellow, blue, blue, just one on top of the other. One of the most important things is not to roll them this way, but to roll them the opposite way where it curls in. That's how you want it, because when you're making loops, you're just going to follow the curve of the Deco mesh. If you have fraying on the end, I don't cut it off at this point. I'm going to cut it off when I attach it to the wreath, and that way you don't waste any Deco mesh. Going about 1.5 inch in, I'm going to bring everything together, all the layers, give it a nice squeeze. Make sure that you have all the endings at least 1 inch in, so we have a nice and secure connection in the beginning. The 14-inch Dollar Tree metal wreath form comes with 4 rows and 6 sections. My goal today is to fill these 4 sections up. And at the bottom, we're going to have florals and a bow. Usually 5 yards of Deco mesh is enough to do half of this wreath with loops that are 8 inches. Today, I'm going to go down to 7 inches. And because we want to use up that 1 roll to last us as long as we can, I'm actually going to be using row 2 instead of row 3. Usually I do these types of bubble wreaths on row 3, but today we're using row 2. I'm just going to go in, and the first thing I'm going to do is right there on this crossing, I'm going to put in a zip tie. I'm going to push the tail through to the back and tighten it up. Move it to the side here. Before I start making my loops, some of you have contacted me saying that, Nadia, by the time I'm done with it, some of them are much shorter than others. Well, there's 2 reasons for that. Number 1, sometimes the Deco mesh really stinks at the Dollar Tree. What can I tell you? And they kind of, you know, cut it a different length, maybe a little longer, a little shorter than 5 yards. So that's the number 1 reason. Another reason is as we layer them, of course, the bottom layer is going to be shortest. The top layer is going to be kind of, you know, on the longer end. So it's very important to kind of keep it down. Make sure when you're measuring it, keep it down. And I kind of keep it tight Then move it along to my 7 inches. At least when you do that, yes, this bottom one is probably going to get used a little less than the top one, but at least this way, the difference is going to be a lot less. So just keep it tight and flat on your table. Now I'm just grabbing my pipe cleaner, 2 twists. I'm going to send it back. And in the back, as always, I'm going to give it 2 more twists. And then I'm going to fold it just like that. Just fold it right there. And then fold it back. That's it. It's gone, it's clean, it's smooth. I'm going to cut the excess of the tail. I got my 6 bubbles or 6 loops right here, and I'm moving on to section 2, and I'm just going to continue going until I run out of Deco mesh, and I'm hoping to fill in this 4th section as much as possible. Wanted to show you an example of how just messed up Dollar Tree ribbon can be. And now at $1.25, this kind of mess is becoming expensive because look at this. This is my top roll. This is the one that's supposed to be the shortest. Look how filled it is. And this one, and then look at this one. It's barely enough for 1 more. So far I have 6 in each section, and then in this last section I have 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to make 4 right now, and that's it. That's all I'm going to have enough for making 7-inch loops. This is just ridiculous. And this one I'm really going to just keep it nice and taut because I want to make sure that I have enough to make a loop here. And on this last one, of course, I am going to use a zip tie. And now I'm going to start opening these up. The sky is blue, so that's going to go towards the outside. And the wheat fields are yellow, so that's going to go towards the inside. And I'm just going to push it down. Just separate the 2 of them together and see how that will look. I'm not separating each one, just kind of in a set of 2. Oh, look at this fraying, you guys. This is ridiculous. So off I go, top 2 colors together, and I'm just pulling this down and to the sides. Now that my beautiful wreath is ready for the florals, I decided to use my favorite flowers, which are these ranunculus, and of course some hyacinths. The reason I love ranunculus is look how beautiful, elegant, and kind of big they are. But the one bad thing about it is they pop off so easy. So when you're buying these at the Dollar Tree, make sure you look through all the little stems to make sure the flower is actually on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a dot of hot glue and hot glue the ranunculus onto the actual stem. That's the only way that I know. Let's move it to the side so I know which one I did. That's the only way to keep the flowers on the stems. All the greenery I'm going to pull up. Now I'm just going to put the bouquet in front of me with the longest flower in the back, shortest in the front. And what I'm going to do is right here, I already hot glue it so I know it's nice and safe. I'm going to just kind of push them forward or turn them in a little bit so the flower actually faces the front of the wreath. And that way when I put it on here, you could see the beautiful florals. I got both of these done, and because they're going to be right here, I'm going to leave them on the stems. I'm just going to bend them a little bit to go with the curvature of our wreath form here. These stay on a little better, but you can obviously add a little hot glue if you feel that it's loose. And with the hyacinths, I am going to take them off the stems. And I'm leaving all the petals on. Now I'm just going to arrange the flowers a little bit. Now it's time to arrange my hyacinths. I'm going to put 2 on the sides here and the 3 in the front. Same thing on the other side. And I have 2 little stems left over, but I can always add when I need to. And I actually prefer to do that because sometimes when you're making it, you can't see the bigger picture. And at the end, it's nice to add where you need it. I'm grabbing a zip tie. You can also use a floral wire. Before I tighten it completely, I'm going to bring my wreath in and make sure it's at least where we want it on the sides here. I think I want to bring them in just a little bit. Now I'm going to grab a bigger zip tie. I could have probably used the same one, but it wasn't that big, and I just wanted to make sure the flowers were going to be secure before I actually attached them on there. And this way I know it's not going to be loose and the metal of the wreath form is not going to interrupt kind of the closeness of the stems. So grabbing another one, and this one's a little bigger, just tightening it up. I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to bring in my ribbon. My yellow ribbon is 2 inches, my blue one is 1.5 inches, and this is not wired ribbon, it's a very soft ribbon. So I'm going to just kind of measure how much I need, and I'm just making a simple bow. I'm going to connect the bow with tiny dots of hot glue. That's just so it stays in place while I prepare my blue one. Quick question, how do you guys secure your ribbon rolls? I just use a rubber band that's not too rough and it's not going to damage my actual ribbon, and just put it around. That's it. And it won't entangle and it's going to be nice and neat. Now the blue ribbon. And I'm just making these loops, kind of eyeing them. As you see, like the first thing I did was just made sure that it looked okay on my actual wreath. And now I'm going to do this one. I think that's going to look lovely. And now here I'm going to attach one to another between the layers. Just a little dot of hot glue there. To bring it together, I'm going to use the method I always use. I'm going to bring them together, kind of fold them in half to the front and to the sides. I feel like when I do this, the ribbon just stands out so nicely. Grabbing a pipe cleaner, I'm going to first just kind of hold it in place while I make sure the ribbon is nice. Going to give it 2 twists here. See, when I secured it on here, I just realized this area is fairly empty. So I'm going to use these guys right here to kind of cover this area up so that we can't see any of the wreath form. So it's a little bit more seamless. I'm just going to cut off this big end right here using a green floral wire. I'm just going to attach it to the actual wreath form. First, I'm going to attach the wire to my little floral here. And since I know it's going to be sliding, I'm going to put the wire around one of these little stems. There you go. And now I know it's secure and in place. And then I'm just going to add it in the back. As you can see, I'm just going to attach it right there. Secure it in place. Now that we have our little flowers in place, the bow is going to be perfect. And of course, we need to take care of this front right here. Grabbing another piece of this yellow ribbon, and you need anywhere from 2 to 4 inches. I grabbed a little bit of a big piece, and I'm just going to hot glue it. I cut off such a big piece, I have enough to go around twice, so that's what I'm going to do. And of course, because I folded it, I'm going to put some hot glue in that fold. And of course, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my beautiful bow and attach it with the pipe cleaners to the center of this area right here with all the florals. Wreath, I'm going to be using 2 rolls of Deco mesh. This one's a black and white buffalo check, and this one's plain black. And then I'm going to be using this 14-inch metal wreath form from the Dollar Tree as my base. Usually I don't have this problem with the Dollar Tree wreath forms, but today I do, so I thought I'd show you something. This one has these sharp edges right here where it's being separated, and I decided to make sure that these little points don't scratch the wall that this wreath is going to be hanging on. So I'm just going to grab my glue gun and just give it a dab of hot glue just right on the tip where that would be touching our wall. Just like that, just a little dot. When using the Nadia method, I usually recommend using the thinner Deco mesh. Just like this one, it's just plain netting and it's easy to put it together. And then today I'm going to be using this buffalo check, and this one is kind of a soft buffalo check and I think I'll be fine with that, but we will be using the Nadia method today. For the 10-inch Deco mesh, I cut my strips for the Nadia method into 15 inches. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut this whole roll. For my buffalo check Deco mesh, same thing, 15 inches. Now the pipe cleaners, and I'm just going to cut these in half because this Deco mesh is a little bit thicker and the bows are going to be bigger. I just want to make it easy on myself. And when I do that, after I cut it in half, I just make a little V, and this is just going to make it easier to make our bows. And now let's make our little bow. I just keep the strip just like I cut it, and then I kind of walk it out until the ends are overlapping about an inch, inch and a half. I'm going to pinch it on both sides and then just bring it down just like it is. Keeping my one finger on top from the bottom, I'm going to walk it up, making our little bow. Grab our little pipe cleaner. This is our smooth end. I'm going to bring the pipe cleaner around. Bring the bow back so it's a nice tight fit. 2 twists. Get rid of any strays, and you have a little bow. Look how beautiful this is. Let's make the second one from the regular mesh. Same thing, we're going to overlap it about inch, inch and a half. Pinch it on both sides and bringing it down. I'm making sure that the overlapping is right in the center. Right here, I'm going to just hold it in place. From the bottom over here, I'm going to start walking it up. With this finger, I'm kind of holding the middle so it doesn't ride because this is a long strip. And here we go. Just kind of walking it up and having my thumb to help it along. Grab a pipe cleaner and give it 2 twists in the back. And we have a bow. I'm done making my bows, and now it's time to put them on the wreath form. I'm going to be putting my bows on the second row from the inside, and I'm just going to be alternating between the solid and the buffalo check. Right now I'm just going to twist them all on, and then I'll take care of the tails in the back. And here you can either cut them off or just twist them, bend them in half, and then in the back like that. I'm done with my first section, and look how beautiful it is. I'm kind of squeezing it because don't forget we're going to have 8 in each one of these sections, so it's going to kind of push it up. It's going to be such a beautiful and full wreath. I decided to make a bow for this wreath, and we're going to make a funky bow. I have not made this one in a while, so I'm super excited about it. For this funky bow, I will be cutting my ribbon into 25 inches. I recommend anywhere from 25 to 30. And if you're going to do 25 like I'm doing, my loops are going to be 10 inches. If you are going to do the 30 inch for a big, big wreath, then I do recommend making your loops about 12 inches. After I cut my ribbon, I'm just going to fold it in half, then fold it in half at the tip so we can make the dovetail. And you can use anywhere from 4 to 8 of these loops. I average about 6, I would say. It just all depends on what type of ribbon you're using, what you are doing. The last ribbon I'm going to be using is this mesh ribbon, and it is one of my favorite things at the Dollar Tree these days. I am going to cut it into 25 inches, but I'm not going to be dovetailing the ends. I have my ribbon all laid out. I'm going to grab my first ribbon, fold it in half. Because we're doing 10 inches, I'm going to measure off 5 inches, and right here, I'm just going to kind of put it in between my fingers. Now this bottom part right here, that's facing down, I'm going to twist it so that the good side of the tails is facing up. Then this one, obviously, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to be measuring off 5 inches, and then I'm just going to squeeze it in here and face it the other way. Next, I'm going to take this thicker one. Give me my 5 inches. We're going to face it the other side. So basically every other, you're going this way, that way, this way, that way. Have our tail, the tail that's facing down, we are going to twist it up. So both tails are facing up. Next, I'm grabbing the polka dot one, measuring off 5 inches. And since the loop is going this way, we're going to put the loop this way. And of course, this one we're going to twist the other way. Grabbing my Dollar Tree one again. 5 inches, going the other way, and then this ribbon right here, which is such great quality. Wiggle it in, make sure we twist this side right here, and then I'm grabbing another piece of this mesh ribbon here, Measure off my 5 inches going the other way. I'm going to grab a pipe cleaner. Because of the ribbon I use, this is going to be kind of like a very light, airy kind of bow, but I think it's going to be super cute. Look at this beautiful full wreath. I absolutely love it. And I'm going to attach my bow to kind of like the top left area. Feed it through, make sure it's in the area that I wanted. And then of course we're going to twist the pipe cleaners in place and hide them there. I want to make sure to bring up all the loops. It's going to be so pretty. And then just straighten out the tails. For the sign, I'm going to be using this one from the Dollar Tree. I thought it was so super cute. And the first thing I'm going to do is, of course, I'm going to cover that little hole right on top. I'm going to grab some lightweight spackling and just fill it in. When filling the hole, I always make sure to overfill, because when it dries, it's going to sink in, and then when you paint it, you're going to be able to see that circle, and you don't want that. Now that it's dry, I'm just grabbing some sandpaper from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to smooth it out. I want the whole sign to be white, and then home will be in black. The first thing I'm going to do is go in between the letters and paint that white, and then I'm going to do the rest. Now I'm grabbing some acrylic black paint and just paint the home sign. Now I'm going to take a Sharpie paint marker and I'm just going to go along the edges, and I'm just going to make it look like it has stitching on the outside. This is going to make the circle stand out a little bit. I have my sign right here, the bow's on this side. I can even bring it in just a little bit. And then I'm going to put a little pipe cleaner in the back here. I have some leftover ribbon I'm going to use just straight in the center here. Pipe cleaner, more hot glue, and cover it with my little piece of fabric and let it cool. My hot glue is all cooled in the back, and I'm going to do one little addition to this home sign, and that's this little bee that I believe I got at Joann Fabrics a long time ago. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of hot glue and hot glue it right there. Just so adorable, and this little bee is flying around, so I thought it was super cute. And now I'm just going to attach it right here, right to the wreath form. Today's wreath, I'm going to be using this polypro mesh that I got at Michael's on their after Christmas sale. It's a beautiful buffalo check deco mesh, and it's 10 inches by 30 feet. For pancake wreaths, I like using deco mesh that is on the thicker side, meaning it's a little bit busier. It's not that sheer deco mesh, or if you have foil deco mesh, that would work as well. To prepare the base, you are going to need 12 pipe cleaners. And this one is going to be really easy. The first 6 I'm going to put on the first and second row. And the reason I do put it on first and second is when you do this, it's a little tighter and there's less chances of it moving. On some wreaths, I do not do that. I just use either first or second row. But on this wreath, it's just smarter to use this. I feel like this wreath really breaks all my rules. I usually work inside out. This time I'm going to be working outside in, just because this wreath you're kind of building when you're putting your mesh on there, and you will see what I mean when we get a little further in. For reference, I am using a 14-inch metal wreath form from the Dollar Tree, and it comes in 6 sections. The second set of pipe cleaners I will be putting on row 3 in the intersection right here. Some people put it on both, but I like putting it right here because this is one of those wreaths that you really don't want your mesh to move. And when I put it in this intersection, I know it's not going to go anywhere. So in each section, we have one in the middle of the section on row 1 and 2, just like that. And one on row 3 on the intersections themselves, just like that. Our deco mesh, we're going to be cutting into 30-inch strips, and because my mat is 24 inches, what I do is I just add the ruler at the end over here. Do keep in mind that we have a 1/2 inch right there on the border, and I'm just going to lay it starting on my ruler and of course ending right here. With this deco mesh, it's kind of on the thicker side. I sometimes do use the heat tool, so that's up to you if you use a rotary cutter or a heat tool for this. I'm going to first work on the outside row, which is the one that's on the 3rd row on the intersection. I have 12 30-inch strips of the deco mesh, and now all I'm going to do is make a little ruffle. I'm going to curl in the end and just start bringing it in. Isn't this beautiful? And I'm going to grab my wreath form and attach it. I'm going to do 2 twists. And what I'm going to do is these endings right here, I'm going to overlap them. Just like that. I did that on one side. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. You want to make this kind of a continuous flower, but the whole point of it is we do want to keep it nice and flat. If you have any curls that are curling up like this, you just make sure that it's going kind of in a little poof here, and make sure everything is tucked in and being tucked in the right way, especially that underneath layer, so it doesn't push the outer layer out. And you have a sweet little flower that's being tucked in, it's overlaying, and look at this. It's nice and solid. Same thing. I'm just going to start bringing it together. And I'm going to overlay it. And I do still like to have this edge curled in, and I put it in between the waves of it, just because I want to prevent fraying as much as possible. Same thing with this side. I make sure it's curled up just a little bit there, and I'm going to work it into the flower so that the wave fits into one of these grooves. We have a sweet little flower. The whole point of this wreath is to keep it kind of flat, because it's meant to go in between the door and a storm door. So those of you who live up north, like for example me, I do have a storm door, and a lot of people in the south do not. But I think this method is beautiful regardless, because it covers so much. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful style of wreath. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put the ribbon on these 6 flowers right now. Then I'm going to come back and finish off with the spirals, because they're going to be covering this area right here. And it's just nicer to take care of the ribbon right now. I'm going to grab this beautiful bee ribbon and I'm going to cut it into 12-inch strips. If you're ever wondering where I got a certain item, whether it be mesh or ribbon, please look in the description box under supplies. I will always mention that. But this one I got at Craft Outlet. This one I got at the Dollar Tree. And it's a white ribbon with polka dots. I thought this would match really nicely because there are polka dots on this sweet little bee ribbon. Same thing with this one. We're going to cut it into 12-inch strips. And because these two are going on our first set of flowers, we're only going to need 6 of each of the ribbon. Now I'm going to go along and make dovetails on all the ribbon pieces. Now I'm going to grab my thicker ribbon, put my thinner ribbon right on top, and I just do it on my mat so I know where the center is. It's, you know, there's no thinking. I'm going to gather it, and I'm going to make a little V, and I'm just going to attach this little V to our mesh right here, to our little flower. Make sure it's nice and centered, and I know we are because we measured. And I'm going to kind of poof it out, follow the flow here, and I'm just going to do a few more twists of the pipe cleaner, cut it off on top, and tuck it back. And the reason I do this, it's just going to be hard to get that pipe cleaner all the way to the back. It's going to hold, it's in place, it's going to be perfect. And I'm just going to move on and put these bundles on the rest of my little flowers. I'm done with my first layer. Now I'm going to start making ruffles for the inside row right here and just attach them right on top right here. Once again, don't forget to tuck, and in we go. 2 good twists on top, and we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to overlay it and make our little pancake and make sure that our flower is bent like this, and that's going to cover our edges right here, and all you're going to see are the little tails, and it's going to be super cute. And I'm just going to continue adding ruffles to the pipe cleaners that are on that first and second row. Our deco mesh is all done, and now I'm going to move on to decorate each of the centers. I'm grabbing this beautiful bee ribbon that I got at Hobby Lobby, and this one I'm going to cut into 12-inch strips. It is wired, so that's going to make it easier for us, but it's really nice quality. It's thick, beautiful ribbon, and then I'm going to make dovetails on all the endings of the ribbon. Next, I'm going to take this white grosgrain ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut 15-inch strips. Remember the pipe cleaners we cut off after we attached the ribbon right here? Well, I'm going to grab the pipe cleaners and my Dollar Tree white grosgrain ribbon, and I'm going to make sweet little bows. I'm going to measure 3.5 inches on one side and 3.5 inches on the other side. And I'm going to bring them together, kind of making a breast cancer sign right here. But what you want to do, because these tails are facing up, I'm going to flip it so they're facing down, and they're going to lay really nicely on my little flowers. And then this I'm going to flip, and then I'm going to put on top right here. And it's going to make for a perfect bow. I'm going to do one more. And then I'm just taking that piece of pipe cleaner and I'm just making a bow. I'm going to twist it. There you go. Look at this perfect little bow. And then I'm just going to wrap it around and cut off the excess. Let's make one more. I'm going to measure 3.5 inches. 3.5 inches on this side. And I'm going to make a little breast cancer ribbon where the tails are facing up. Now I'm going to flip it so the tails are facing down. And then this part right here, I'm going to twist it up. And then right here in the center, grabbing my leftover pipe cleaner, I'm going to twist it. And how perfect is this little bow? And now let's finish up our flowers. Going to grab my ribbon, measure 6 inches in. Open up my pipe cleaner here, put this beautiful ribbon right in there, then come my bow, and I'm going to give a few twists on the side over here so I can push it back. After I gave a few twists, I'm gonna cut it off and twist it back. Make a V, bring in the bow, twist it on top, and twist it back. And I'm going to continue this going all the way around. This wreath is almost complete except for the centerpiece, and as you can tell, it's pretty flat. Now I'm grabbing my bee sign. I got this at Craft Outlet, and of course you can use whatever sign you can get your hands on. And I'm just going to attach it straight to the top right here. I'm going to remove the jute cord here, grab 2 pipe cleaners, fold them in half, and make this part a little flat right here, just with your 2 fingers like that. Then I just got 2 pieces of ribbon, some hot glue right there, our pipe cleaner, more hot glue on top, and we're going to cover that with our ribbon. And you can use any fabric you want for this. I just find that the pipe cleaners hold a lot better with the fabric. And this is one of these methods that my mom taught me when I was a little girl. I remember doing this. Pipe cleaners are on. And now all that's left is just to put our sign on top of the wreath. Now that my sign is on, I'm just going to go around, fix my ribbon, bubble it up a little bit, and that's it. today's wreath, I'm going to be using this Poly Pro Mesh from Hobby Lobby, and it's 10 inches by 10 yards, so a nice full roll. And we're going to attack this whole wreath thing a different way today. I am using a 14-inch metal wreath form from the Dollar Tree. And then I'm grabbing some pipe cleaners, and these I'm going to cut into 4-inch little strips. We're going to be using this Deco Mesh as a base. And don't worry using a dark Deco Mesh like this, because the best part is brightening it up with some pretty yellows, whites, and maybe a little green. We are going to have such a happy little wreath, even though we're starting with a black base. So this method is called Poof Chain method. The reason is we're going to make little poofs, and we're going to kind of have them in a little chain and then put them on our wreath base. First things first, we're just going to gather about inch and a half in, grab our pipe cleaner, and give it 2 twists. Then I'm going to be measuring 10-inch poofs and putting a pipe cleaner on the poof. And just keep on going like that. And that is why it's called a poof chain method, is because you're kind of going in a chain and attaching your little pipe cleaners. I am going to continue and finish off the whole roll, making these little 10-inch little poof chains. I made 30 chains with my Deco Mesh, and I do have a little bit left over. I'm going to drop the majority here and just keep that beginning. And now we can get started on our wreath form. So the Dollar Tree wreath form does have 6 sections, and we're going to be using all the rows. This is going to be so easy. If you start with the first row on an intersection, the second row you're going to want to go in between, then the third row on an intersection, and the fourth row we're going to do 2 on this last one. Just going to grab an intersection and tie it. Because this is the beginning connection here, I'm just grabbing a zip tie and just securing it just a little bit more with a zip tie. As I'm going along, I am going to try to poof it out. And here, I'm just going to go to the next intersection. So very easy. We're just going to go to the next, and to the next. This is a great method to make your wreaths if you're just not comfortable with all those pipe cleaners sticking out on the wreath base. This is just so easy. You just make 10-inch little loops or chains or whatever you want to call it. And now we're just attaching at the intersection. Look at this. Very easy, and we already have a pretty wreath forming. Anyone can do this. As far as our pipe cleaner here, I'm just giving it 2 twists in the back at least. And then I'm just gathering my pipe cleaner, folding it in half, and folding it back. That's it. Now I'm completing my circle, coming back, and I'm just going to attach this right on top of our first one, right where we started. You can see the zip tie right here. And now I'm going to be connecting to the second row, but instead of the connection right here and this intersection, I'm just going to connect it somewhere loosely in the middle. You just connect it on that second bar. That's it. It'll stay in place because you're going to just continue going and going. And then don't forget that the third row, we're going to go back to the intersections. That's it, you guys. It is that easy, that simple. I'm done going around on that second row from the inside, and I'm going to put my last loop right here over that first one that went on there. That way it kind of completes the circle. So I'm going to do that right here. Some people don't do it. Some people do it next to it. I like to kind of complete that whole circle. And then I'm going to go to the intersection right next to it. It's going to be a little poofy, but we're going to flatten that out. And then I'm going to go all the way around on that third row, putting these on the intersections. Okay, I'm done with row 3. And I'm making my last loop right here. So I'm going to put it right on top of the one where we started. And then I'm going to move on to row 4, which is the outermost row. As you can see, it's filling in really nicely. Now that I've completed the third row, overlapped and finished right on top of where we started, now I'm going to go to the center of this next section and put my poof right there. And so what I'm going to have in this row is I'm going to have it in the middle of the row and then where the intersection is. Middle of the row, intersection, middle of the row, intersection, middle of the row, intersection, all the way around. On the intersection here, make sure you lock it in and just wrap your endings around both sides here so that it locks it in, because that way this middle one, it'll be fine no matter what and it won't slide. So I always make sure that when I'm doing the intersection that it's really locked in. And as you can see, I'm poofing every one of the poofs as I'm going along. I made 3 more chains to kind of use up the roll. And right here, this should have been my last one, but as you can see, this is a Dollar Tree wreath form and it's kind of loose here. So I decided to make 2 more right here just to kind of secure it in place. And of course, just like in the beginning, I'm going to use a little zip tie to lock it in place. So I'm going to first tie it in with my pipe cleaner. When I zip tie endings or beginning in place, I try to go off of the actual pipe cleaner about 1/2 inch. This way, we are going to make the rest of the tail go smooth and it's not going to stick out, which is really nice. So here is one roll all ready to go. It's just a nice fluffy wreath. Now it's time to decorate. And I'm going to start by putting in a huge bow right here. We are just going to have fun with this bow. And the really cool part about it is because the base is black, we are going to start brightening it up with some white ribbon. Then we're going to bring in some yellow ribbon. Then we're going to bring the lemon ribbon in. And we're just going to have fun. And I'm thinking of maybe throwing in some green ribbon in between somewhere. And then on this side, I'm going to have a sign. And then we're just going to have some decor here and there on the sides. For our bow, let's get the bow maker out. I'm going to put 2 dowels in, then a pipe cleaner. Any of the supplies, including the ribbon that I'm going to use, I'm going to list in the description box below. And I'm going to let you know where I got it. I'm starting off with the white because our wreath is black and we need to have that beautiful contrast. Here, I'm just going to measure off 10 inches for the tail. This one does have a front and a back, so we do have to twist this one. And I'm going to start with a 6-inch loop. 6-inch loop on this side. Next, I'm going to bring in the yellow, measure my 10 inches for the tail, and then the tail is going to go off to this side. And then same thing, we're going to make 6-inch loops, and then we're going to twist. I know it looks like this is the same ribbon on the front and the back, but it's not. It does have a front and the back to it. Measure off another 10 inches. Now I'm going to grab some green ribbon and I'm going to do 9 inches, going a little smaller. And then this one I'm going to do, you know what? I'm going to do 2 loops 6 inches. There you go. There's my 6 inches. Then I'm going to go down to 5 inches here. For our lemon ribbon, I'm going to make a 9-inch tail. We're going to twist and then we're going to make 5-inch loops and twist. And we're going to make 6 loops with the 5 inches because this is our main ribbon. This is our pride and joy. We're going to have a beautiful bow. I'm using my pipe cleaner to bring the bow out, but I really do want to use a zip tie. So I'm going to take the pipe cleaner out, bring my zip tie in here, and really pull it tight. Now we can bring our pipe cleaner back and then give it a few twists. It's just, I don't trust the pipe cleaner to hold my bow nice and tight like that. Okay, now I'm going to put my bow in and I'm just going to go on an intersection and I'm going to go on row 2 and I'm going to make 2 twists. Keep it nice and light. You can always tighten it and pull it back later. But right now I want to make sure that the bow is where I want it to be and make little dovetails on all my tails. Before we work on the bow, I'm going to grab our I could just squeeze you sign. And by the way, this sign, I got at Hobby Lobby and I got it for $1.99. It was originally $12, but it was post-season and I got it for a steal. Next, I'm going to grab a pipe cleaner. I'm going to go really heavy on the hot glue. I'm going to put this felt piece on here. You can put fabric, you could put ribbon, you could put anything you want. The thicker it is, the stronger the hold is going to be. Look at this, I just put it on there. So I have the bow right here. We're going to balance it out with my sign. I'm just finding a good spot. Now that we have our basics, let's work on our bow. And here we're just going to just start poofing it. Poof and twist. Especially those center ones, make sure you do a little bit of twisting. And the reason I twist is so they're not all lined up. You want it to be a beautiful poof. Next, we're going to make 3 ribbon bundles. And I'm going to grab the yellow, the green, and our little lemon one. And I'm going to cut the ribbon into 12-inch strips. If you want more, you can make more. But what you want is to balance out that big bow with some more pretty ribbon. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut dovetails on all of the ribbon pieces. I'm taking leftover pipe cleaners. They don't need to be long because we're attaching them straight to the wreath form. So I have my yellow, my green, and then my gorgeous lemon one. Bring it together, pipe cleaner, and make our little ribbon bundle. If you don't have a sign, you can definitely just do a few more ribbon bundles and just put them around. So make 5 or 6 instead of the 3 that I'm making, and it'll be just fine. And here is our wreath. I'm going to put one right here. And of course, this is going to make sure that any spots that are maybe see-through, if you're using a light colored Deco mesh, it's going to cover that because all that ribbon is going to take care of it. If you're not putting anything in the middle, just make sure you poof it out right here towards the center, and then 2 right here, I'm thinking. I think I'm going to twist this one a little bit so they're not facing the same way. As you can see, this wreath looks absolutely professional. This looks like a $200 wreath, but you saw how we made it. This was $2. The ribbon did cost me about $10, I would say. And then the Deco mesh here was 50% at Hobby Lobby, so that was $5. But look how absolutely gorgeous it looks. Now, if you want to be done, you can absolutely be done. You can also add some of these lemons to the centers right here if you want it. I don't really want that. What I got is a little pick, and this I got at Michael's on an after season sale. And all I want to do is kind of bring it in and just kind of have a little bit of this kind of greenery and little lemons sticking through. So I'm going to have one right here, and then I have a second one. Now that I see where I want my little picks to go, I'm going to grab a green pipe cleaner, and right here where it has the smooth part, I'm going to give it 2 twists just to make sure that it won't slide off, and it won't, but just to make sure, I'm going to wrap my little tails against one of the branches here. This second one, just another branch. Do 2 twists. This is just to really make sure it's not going to go anywhere. And then I'm going to just send it back, put it in place where I want it to go, pull out those pipe cleaners, and attach it to the wreath form. And it's just sitting on the Deco mesh itself. And now I'm making sure the lemons are showing and the flowers are showing. So pretty. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. And now I'm just going to go around, play with the ribbon, make sure everything is where I want it to be. Wreath, I'm going to be using a 14-inch metal wreath form from the Dollar Tree. It does come in 6 sections, and I'm going to attach 18 pipe cleaners to this wreath form. I'm going to do it in a very easy way. It's going to be super easy to remember. I'm going to start by grabbing a pipe cleaner, and I'm going to put it on the first and second wire. You can also put it on the first wire. I've done that before. Today I feel like grabbing 2 of them. So I'm going to go around, and first I'm going to go on the inner row. You can do each section at a time, but I feel like doing this is a little bit easier to understand sometimes. And all I'm doing is just 1 pipe cleaner right in the center of each little division here. And we're going to face all of these towards the inside. Now I'm going to grab another pipe cleaner, and I'm going to go on row 3 and 4. And I'm going to do the same thing, 2 twists. And for this part, we're just going to put 2 in each section. 1 on this side of our pipe cleaner and the other one on this side. And we're going to have the tails facing out. All my pipe cleaners are in place. And as you can see, it's 3 per section, 1 in the middle in the first 2 rows and 2 on the sides here in row 3 and 4. Sometimes it's hard to see what I'm doing when I'm actually working with the Deco mesh on here. So I'm going to explain how we're going to do this. We're going to start attaching, say, right here. And we're going to go all the way around, making 10-inch loops. Then we're going to complete the circle coming to this first one that we started. And then from here, instead of going to this next one right here, we're going to jump on over to the next section. And at this point, we're just going to make 10-inch loops going all the way around. And since we're using Dollar Tree Deco mesh, I don't always trust that the full roll is there, that the full 5 yards is there. If you have those same worries, what I recommend is going down to 9 inches as you're going around this outer row. To get started, I'm unrolling our rolls of Deco mesh, and we're just going to overlap them, one on top of the other. Bring them together, about an inch, inch and a half in. Open up our first one where we're going to attach, and I'm going to give it a tight twist or 2 or 3. And then right here, because this is the beginning and I do want to make sure it's nice and secure, I'm going to grab a zip tie. It is always a good idea to grab your zip tie and go off about 1/2 inch from where you have it connected, because it kind of straightens out this tail. And as you can see, instead of being poofed out, it kind of lays against, especially sometimes you get this wild looking kind of endings here. You just smoothed it out and it's going the way you need it to go. Little snip. After I made a loop, I'm going to keep my pipe cleaners up, because then we're going to need to find them when we're working on it further. My 10 inches is this row right here, this light colored row. And the way I make my loops is I hold it close and I pull it to the 10 inches. Then I bring it back and I'll put it in here. Another way to know to make sure you're at 10 inches, what you can do is skip this and go to this next one. If you go to this next one, you're going to get your 10 inches just the same. So that this part is really up to you. 2 twists. I like doing it this way because I know for sure I have my 10 inches. I'm making my last loop on this first row, and I'm going right where I started, right there. 2 nice twists, measure of my next 10 inches. And here I'm going to go on the next section and grab the first pipe cleaner in this next section. And this is where you could go down to 9 inches if that's what you would like to do. But I'm hoping that I'll be okay. I'm worried about one of my rolls, but we will see. So at this point, I'm just going to continue making my 10 or 9 inch loops going all the way around. I'm on my last loop, and this is what's left. I have about 11 inches of this one, a little bit more of this one, and then the top one I have a lot left over. So I'm just going to measure off where we're at here, and it looks like this last one is definitely going to be 9 inches. I was doing kind of 10 inch, 9 inch, 10 inch, 9 inch as I was going along, so it kind of stays symmetrical. Just trying to make sure that I gather everything in that bottom layer. That looks good. Let me cut off the excess. Ooh, maybe cut off a little too much. And then I'm just going to put it straight over the top right here. And then grab a zip tie. And I'm going to attach it to row 3 right here. This way I know my ending is also secure. Here is my last loop right here. This is where we completed our second row and went into row 3 and 4, and so that's where I attached it. Now don't forget, none of this is opened yet. At this point, I'm all done with basically our base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start opening up. The most important part, especially with Dollar Tree Deco Mesh, is not to pull it. What you want to do is you want to just push it down. So I'm going to push it down, then I'm going to push it out. Pull it out, I'm sorry. So push it down. Here's the next layer. Push it down and just kind of move it aside. And there you go, there's your poof. And I'm going to do the same thing with all of these, but just remember, no pulling because it's very, very fragile. So you wanna push it down, wiggle it out, and then the next layer. And then when I'm all done with this, we're going to have a nice and poofy wreath. By the way, if you're not using the Dollar Tree Deco Mesh, but the 5.5 inch Deco Mesh that Hobby Lobby has, you can definitely do the same thing. I would still do 3 of them, layer them over each other, and I would do the same measurements for this one also. Our wreath is all poofed out, and now it's time to make some little bundles to put on our wreath. The first thing I'm going to use is this decorative mesh. It's just yellow in color. It's a pretty yellow color, and it's 6 inches by 3 yards, which means it's 108 inches. If you divide it by 18, because we have 18 pipe cleaners, you're going to get 6. So we're just going to make squares that are 6 by 6 inches. Next, I have some of this lemon ribbon that I got at the Dollar Tree, and it's 1.5 inches by 108. And then also I have this one. This one is wired and it has little polka dots on it. This one's not wired. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it into 10-inch strips. Now that everything's cut up, I'm going to make little dovetails on my ribbon ends. Now that we're getting ready to make our bundles, I decided to bring out the lemons. These were decorative, but these are from the Dollar Tree, and they came 3 in a pack when I got them. Right now it might be a little different, but that's how I got them. And then I'm going to bring in some of the greenery. Now this is from previous flowers that I had, and I'm going to take off the leaves, and I'm not going to be using this plastic part. I just want the leaves. We're going to make bundles only in this inner row, which is row 1 and 2. So we need only 6 of this ribbon, and then 6 lemons and 6 of these greenery pieces. Now it's time to warm up my hot glue. I'm going to start with my decorative mesh. I'm going to put it face down, and I'm going to bring it in, overlapping about 1 inch, and then I'm just going to bring it together, and it's curling in and on top, which is absolutely fine. Then on top of that, I'm going to bring in a white ribbon. On top of that, a lemon ribbon. And just like that, I'm going to put it right on our first. When you give it a few twists, you can either send the pipe cleaners to the back or give it a few more twists and cut it off. And I'm just going to fold it and bend it back. Now I'm going to grab my little greenery and I'm going to put it across right here. Just like that. On top of that, a nice dollop of hot glue. And I'm going to place the lemon right in there. And I know that the leaf is blending in with the greenery. That is just fine. There's our bundle. We have the white, the lemon. We have a little bit of this sticking out. My goal was to make sure that the wreath that we did today was all Dollar Tree. And we can definitely have a fun wreath using only Dollar Tree supplies. I have only 6 lemons on here. I'm not going to put any on the side ones. If you want, you can definitely do that, but I'm just going to kind of have the focus on here. And so what I decided to do on the outside is I'm going to continue doing the same thing with the mesh here, but I'm also going to grab more of this ribbon, and instead of cutting it into 10 inches, I'm only going to cut it into 8 inches. And of course, same thing, I'm going to make little dovetails. We are going to need 12 of these in total, because don't forget, we have 6 on the inside. We have 18 total pipe cleaners. 18 minus 6 is 12. The reason I decided to cut these into 8-inch strips is when I take my decorative mesh, and I'm going to do the same thing, overlap it about 1 inch, bring it together, If you measure it this way, it's about the 8 inches. And of course, I'm going to do it this way. I want my lemon ribbon in the back. I want this in the front. And here is why. When we attach it on here, the decorative mesh is going to be a little kind of floofy right here. And it's easier to cover the green pipe cleaner with that. So I'm going to give it 2 twists here. And in this case, I am going to send it back. In the back, I'm going to tighten it up. At about 1 inch, I'm going to cut off that excess, bend it in half, bend it back, and we're done with this part. And here I'm just going to crisscross it, and it's going to look something like this. And as you see, because we have the decorative mesh on top, it's kind of hard to see the pipe cleaner unless you're really, really looking close because it's floofy here. I'm just going to continue putting these poofs in. And as you can see where it kind of looks empty on this side and it looks filled in, I'm just going to continue going all the way around, and I'll be right back. All done with this wreath. What do you think about this Dollar Tree lemon wreath? It cost me a total of $10, and that is counting it at $1.25 per item. I think it turned out absolutely beautiful. For this wreath, you're going to need a cat who monitors what you're doing. You're going to need at least 2 rolls. We'll see how many rolls I'm going to end up using of this decorative nautical rope from the Dollar Tree. I have 2 rolls right here. And then this is a 14-inch wreath form. You're going to need some ribbon. I'm going to be using this one that I feel very blessed to have. This is the buffalo check from the Dollar Tree. Then I could not find lemons. I had the worst time last year and this year. So I did find these, and I believe I got anywhere from 70 to 90% off on these little things. And they're only $4.99 at Michael's, but I got them end of season. Also going to need some sort of a plaque. Right now, Dollar Tree is putting out all the summer stuff, so I would take a look. This is from last year, and this has strawberry, lemonade, and it has something else. I don't remember, but it was like a set of 3. So I will be using this, and those are the basics. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is untangle this rope. To wrap the rope around the wreath, I recommend 2 things. One, you can weave it, where you're going to go in. Basically, you're going to go in and out, up and over, in and out, up and over, in and out, and you move on like that. And what you're going to get is something like this. And while it's beautiful, you need to keep it tight to really prevent this green from showing. And the other reason is this bar right here, the bars. It's hard to hide these bars when you're weaving. So that is why I decided to just do a wraparound. And on top of that, we end up doing a quick wreath. So I like to keep it kind of all together when I'm doing this. And then just do it loosely and tighten it up. The next thread, I'm basically just continuing where we ended and just hot gluing it in place in the back to that kind of last loop, the back of the last loop. Okay, so I'm done with one of these rolls, and as I thought, it was going to take 2 of these sections. So that means we're going to need 2 more. I'm going to go off screen and have to undo this and do the same thing. And I'm going to fill the whole wreath, and I will be right back. I always start off with the tail, and you know, longer is better. And by the way, this is the Dollar Tree one. Look how much it frays. So I don't mess with it. Even if I would to burn it, it's so fragile. So I like to just bend it back. And if you want, you could bend it back twice. So the first thing I do is I measure my 8 inches. When I get my 8 inches, I make sure that the bow, the ribbon is upside down, because when we start looping over, we want that good side to be on the outside. So here's my middle. We're going to do 4-inch loops, and then we're going to, right here, when we made it, we're going to twist it. We're going to go to the edge right here to the 6 mark to give me my 4 inches. I'm going to go back. I'm going to twist it back. And then I'm going to make a loop again. I'm going to twist it again. And this is where I just bring it together. Grab a little floral wire, give it a nice twist, and bring it together. 8 inches for the second tail. With floral wire, the nice thing about it is if you make your bow, say you made it too big, that's not a problem. All you have to do is in the back, you go and you make like the little ribbon that I like to make, which I'm going to show you later, and you just fold it back and you just made it smaller. But I'm going to undo that because I do want to keep it at the 4-inch loop mark. I'm going to measure my 8 inches for the tail. And then I'm going to make 3-inch loops, which means 6 inches. There's my 6-inch. And I usually do this by eye, but if you can't, you could see how easy that is. Just measure your 6 and you go for it. But before I do that, I am going to bring a little bit more of the wire. Let me just snip it off here. So our buffalo check were 8 inches, which means 4-inch loops. Then we went down to 3-inch loops for the white ribbon. And now we're going to go down to 2.5 inches for this lemon one because I don't want it to be too much smaller than the white one. So that means we're at 5 inches for our loops. There you go. And that makes a 2.5-inch loop. There you go. Once again, I pull it taut, then I fold in the middle, just making sure that my tails are there, and then my loops are up high, making sure we're in the center. The next thing I like to do is I like to take a piece of pliers, anything, and just kind of squish this together. That way it's flat, and it's going to be better to bring it all together. But then again, it just holds better when you open these up. Grab a good length one because we want this one to then go around the base right here. Once I twisted it, I'm going to spread it kind of this way because right now I need to put on my centerpiece. And I am going to use the white one just because it's going to give it a clean look. Just wrap it around all 3 bows. When this goes off, what I'm going to do, it's hard to see because they're so thin. I'm going to bring it and I'm going to twist it. Give it at least 1 twist. And then I wanted, you know, my wire to go up and down so it could go right around. And I'm going to really just basically hit the middle. Finding the center here, and I just kind of do it like this. Shoop, there's my center. I am going to put it on the 2 middle rows right here, just so it gets covered and there's no way anyone can see. Okay, and I just crisscrossed them underneath their wire, and now I'm just twisting it in place and cutting off the excess. Going to hide this part on the inside. My bow's done. I'm going to bring in my little cute lemon bushels, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to curve it to the wreath, and you can either hot glue it in, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to go basically in and out, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, now let's work on the tail. Just fold it and just make sure that this gets folded inside. When you're working with grosgrain ribbon, sometimes it could be a pain. So what you have to do is you need to hot glue things in place, especially the tails. What I do is I pull them down and hot glue them in the back. I just gave it a little bit of a dollop of hot glue, and I'm just moving it down like how I want my ribbon to float, and just let it cool right there. And then I'm going to move this one. I'm going to show you how I'm doing this. Grab this, move it down, just like that. And when you kind of face it towards where you want it, just fold it back and give it a little bit of hot glue right there. And that is how I get them to stay in place. I'm going to be using this yarn from the Dollar Tree, and it's this beautiful dark gray. Also this foam wreath form, and it's 9.8 inches. So all I did was just to get started, just tied it to my wreath form, and I'm going to go in and out just like this until my whole wreath is covered. I am going to give it just a little dot of glue, and this is going to glue my beginning and end right here. The first flower we're going to make is just a basic flower. Let's do 5 inches. I'm going to fold it. I'm going to cut my square, and I'm just going to round it off right here. As you can see, I started cutting, and I'm going to keep it at about 1/2 inch and going all the way around. I'm going to leave about 3/4 of an inch of a circle inside. Okay, so I left about 1 inch of a round at the bottom because I think this flower is going to turn out kind of big. We are actually working towards the inside, so it's kind of in reverse. And we want to make sure that as you're going towards the inside, don't make your string, I guess, thinner. Make sure you keep it at that 1/2 inch. So we're going all the way to the beginning. This is where we started. I'm just cutting the little thing off right here, and I just like to start by just kind of grabbing it, just so you have that beginning. Do you see? Just so you have that beginning, and then just slowly take that off. You have your center, and then just keep on going, and just, I like to hold in my hand, that way you feel where the bottom is, and just keep on twisting. And I'm keeping it loose, not too tight. As you come to the end, remember the circle that we left? We're going to just put some hot glue over the bottom, and we're going to hot glue that in place. This is what's going to keep our rows together. Next, we're going to make a smaller one. Now we have 2 little roses. I want to put a pearl in this one. So what I'm going to do is just kind of untwist it right here in the middle, just to make it a little bit of room. Okay, for this next one, it is kind of easy. I'm going to do 1.5 inch for this one. The length is up to you. It just depends on how big you want it. Okay, so mine is 1.5 inches by about 8.5. Fold it in half, and I want to start cutting 1/4 inch little sections, and I'm not cutting it to the end. I'm leaving about 1/4 inch at the bottom. Now I'm just grabbing another piece of yellow and cutting a circle out. Now I'm just going to go very lightly. I'm just going to put a little bit of hot glue and fold it in half. You guys can already see it, right? There you go. Hot glue it And then just keep on going. I like to roll mine nice and tight. The really cool thing about this style of flower is if I wanted to make it longer, I just add another piece and keep on going. You can never tell. Now I'm going to grab that circle that I cut out. This way I know my flower is nice and secure. And I just think this is one of these super easy but absolutely stunning flowers. For this one, I'm cutting my felt to 4 inches. And then I'm going to grab my gray fabric and also cut it to 4 inches. Okay, now I'm just going to lay my white over the gray. Now I want my white on the outside, the gray is going to be on the inside, and we're going for 1/2 inch on this one. Okay, so I have my gray and white together. I want my white to be on the outside. Going to make a room for a pearl, and for this one we're definitely going to be using the bigger one. For this one we are going to just grab, let's see here, we're going to do 1 inch of this gray, and I want it 4 inches. There you go. I'm going to fold, and this is going to be a mini version of this. And I'm going to just cut tiny little slivers without hitting the end, leaving a little bit towards the end just to make sure we don't cut it off, and keep on going. Okay, so for instance, because this is a mini one, this one has a really good chance of being cut off accidentally, and which is fine. That's the really nice thing about this one, is even if you get cut off, you can just add the other piece on without anything showing. All right, so let's continue with this piece. And we're going to roll this one quite tight because this is going to be a center of a flower. Going to cut a circle from one of my leftover pieces. All right, so I'm going to cut about 1 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make little squares, and now I'm going to just cut circles, and you could either do circles or kind of like a teardrop, because what we're going to do is we're going to add it over here. And I'm going to start with the little ones. I have 6 little ones and 6 bigger ones. I mean, I was trying to cut them pretty much the same size, but you're still going to have smaller and bigger. Okay. Here, this is at your discretion. As you can see, I'm leaving a lot at the bottom, and you can either hot glue it to the bottom or you can eventually cut this off. And what I'm going to do is just continue going in a row. So hot glue a little bit on the yellow, a little bit on the gray, and overlap the next petal. Then we're going to do the same thing, a little bit on the yellow, a little bit in the gray, and I'm going to go all the way around. Okay, when you have all 6 petals on, you continue from the last one, keep on overlapping with the bigger ones. I'm going to move these up just a tiny bit just to make a second row. So you have these inside and these on the outside just a little bit. And I decided to just hot glue the petals to the bottom here. And if it looks messy, just put in a little circle. But don't forget, this is the part that's going to be hot glued onto the wreath. And you got your really pretty flower. Now I'm going to do the same thing with a white center. How pretty is this little flower? So now I have this one and that one. For this flower, I'm grabbing white felt, and it's about 1/2 inch by 7 inches. And what I'm going to simply do is just start cutting, and I'm going to try to keep it closer to the halfway mark versus the 3/4 mark, just because this is going to get a little bit tiny. So now I have this cut, and over here I cut a little too short. I'm just going to cut it off because it's going to be difficult, and I'm going to be using both of these pieces. Next, I'm going to grab these florals from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to grab a nice yellow center. It's a nice rounded one. And of course, where it was taken off the stem, we're going to keep that at the bottom. I'm putting my hot glue not in the center, but a little bit lower. And I'm just going to start hot gluing this. Now, if you feel like you need to grab your plastic thumbs, I do recommend it. As we're going along, you're going to see my little daisy forming, and it is so adorable, and you saw how easy and quick this little one was. And I'm going to continue with the piece that I accidentally cut too short. All right, and here you go. Here's our sweet little daisy, and I think it turned out super, super cute. Here are the flowers that we made. I just made a couple more to fill in the space, but I think these will be really pretty. As you can see, yellow is the dominant color, so I want to start with those, and definitely with the bigger ones. On my wreath, I have 2 places where I used some hot glue, so I'm going to be hot gluing in this area. As I'm doing this, I'm going to grab my finishing touch, which is this gold finch. I was going to glue it, but I think I'm going to take this out because I want the tail to show a little bit. Like this. There you go. Now I'm contemplating whether I should do some leaves, and this is the Dollar Tree one. This one's really bright. So we're making little footballs and then just cutting 1/3 of it down. Today's wreath, I'm going to be using this 8-inch metal wreath form from the Dollar Tree, and you get 2 of these for $1 or $1.25 now. Next, I'm going to be using these 2 rolls of felt from the Dollar Tree, and the nice thing about it is it's a little bit on the thinner side, but it's perfect for making the little petals that we're going to be making. But it is still felt, and it'll stand up when we put the whole flower together. We're also going to be using zip ties for this wreath. Now you can definitely use pipe cleaners or chenille wires for this, but I find that zip ties are going to be easier for this. I have a link to these in my description box and also in my Amazon shop. I'm going to start by unrolling my felt all the way. I very carefully folded it in two, and then I'm going to fold it in half once again. So these are 12 inches in width, and we're going to get them down to about 6 inches. Before you start cutting this in half, just make sure that it is aligned really nicely. And then I'm just going to grab my scissors and cut it in half. And now I'm going to cut all of these into 6-inch strips. I'm done cutting up my felt. A full roll of Dollar Tree felt makes 16 pieces that are 6 by 6. I completely cut up the white roll because we're going to use the whole thing. Plus, we're going to need more for the inner circle. So I'll cut that up later. As far as my purple felt, what I did was before I cut it in half, I saved a 12 by 12 piece because we're just not going to need the whole roll. And I have 12 pieces right here that are left over from the roll, and that's all we're going to need. Now I'm ready to start on our petals. And before I get going, I do want to mention that this is inspired by Julie's Wreath Boutique. I will have our channel in the description box. And all I'm going to do is gather in the center and have it overlap about 1 inch. Then just accordion it right in the middle, just like this. You can also choose if you want the smooth side to be up or this side. This side is pretty too because it looks like the petals are curling in, and I actually like that. So I'm going to be using the inside where we actually gathered. Overlap it about 1 inch, gather it in the middle, grab your zip tie, and before you pull it tight, make sure you're in the center. If I'm not sure, I'll just pick it up to make sure, and then just tie it down. I have 5 on here now, and I just feel like it needs 1 more. So I'm going to go ahead and do 1 more, and I'm going to have 6 in each section. I just feel like it wasn't full enough. And then before we move on, I want to do one thing. I'm going to grab some of this 7 mesh, and I'm going to cut out a circle right here. Before I outline my circle, I make sure that there's a row of squares that's on the outside over here. That way I can attach it. And I'm just so sorry that I did not do this before. Yeah, definitely do this part before you start even cutting these up. Using a few zip ties, I'm going to attach this to our wreath form. I use 6 zip ties, and of course I always zip tie these in the front to make sure that the back of my wreath is nice and smooth. I'm going to continue with my white felt, and then I'm going to cut up another roll of white felt. Our first layer is all done, and we just went all around that middle row, the second row. Now we're ready to go into the mesh right here, and I'll show you why. We're going to make another purple one. And here, this is where you kind of assess where you want it, how far away you want it. And I usually about 2 inches from the tips right here. That's where I go in. I'm going to zip tie it in place. And then I'm going to go ahead and prepare my zip ties, going about 1 inch from this one right here, looking at the zip ties, not at the actual petal. And this is the fun part, and it's going to be so satisfying once you start seeing that second color coming in, and it's just going to be so pretty. And since you have the zip ties ready, it's just zip, zip, zip. This is the layer that actually is the hardest, the outside layer, because you're kind of playing it with a wobbly zip tie. But here you prepare them and you just go zip, zip, zip. Now I'm just going to cut off all the excess tails. Just be careful not to cut the felt. 11 of the purple ones fit into the circle. Just straighten these out. And now we're going to bring more of the white in. Just kind of see where I wanted. That looks really good. I would like to fit 5 in here so it's nice and full, but we will see. How absolutely sweet is this wreath? Now for the final touch, I'm going to grab these ranunculus from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to pick one that kind of opens up really pretty. And the endings on these are a little short, so you pretty much have to hot glue them in place. I'm still going to put it through the mesh right here, but definitely give it a good dollop of hot glue to seal it in place. While the hot glue is drying over here, I'm grabbing a pipe cleaner, and this is just a little short one, and I'm just going to twist it to make a little loop so I can hang the wreath here. There you go. At this point, you can definitely leave it as it is because it's so pretty, but I really don't like this center right here. And I know it's a ranunculus and everything, but I just don't like the way that looks. So I'm just grabbing a little vase filler, and these are from the Dollar Tree, of course. I'm going to cut it in half, some hot glue on there, and just put it straight in the center. That's going to bring in some of the white right there, and it's going to look very pretty. But as I said, you don't have to do that. And there you go. We have a beautiful felt flower wreath from the Dollar Tree. For today's centerpiece, we are going to be using this container from the Dollar Tree, and the first thing we're going to do is put some floral foam in there. I'm grabbing this square floral foam. The first one we're putting in just like this. The second piece, I cut off 1 inch, and then I'm going to cut this in half. And it fits perfectly. Now we can get rid of our hot glue gun. Now it's time to decide on what kind of flowers you're going to use. I'm going to be using a combination of white flowers, yellow flowers, and my fillers are these purple ones. When making bouquets, it's good to start with the largest flowers, especially if they're going to act like the fillers. They're going to be basically the base of the bouquet, unless these flowers are statement flowers, meaning it's going to be this 1 big rose or 3 big roses. Those you want to wait till the end to put them in and to, you know, set them in place. But in this case, I'm going to be using these white lilacs, and they're quite full. First thing I'm going to do is measure how tall. So basically we're going to go all the way almost to the stem. You can always cut them down later. Before you start putting in flowers, you gotta decide what shape you want. Do you want it to overflow? Do you want it to be straight up? Do you want it to be like in a warm kind of poof or a, you know, bubble? I'm kind of going for the bubble look here. So I'm starting going in from the sides. So we're going to do the mirror effect on this one too. As you can see, I'm starting with my center of the sides, center right here. That way you can start filling in from the sides. As you can see, everything is mirrored. Now we're getting to the inside. We want a nice straight one for the top. Let's see if that's the tallest one. That's the center, and now we're back to mirroring. And this is how big our centerpiece is going to be. One thing I forgot to mention, make sure your foam is about 1 inch or at least half an inch from the top, because at the end, when you have your beautiful bouquet and you want to cover that foam, just use some moss and you're good to go. At this point, I'm going to leave my white alone. I have backup just in case. I'm going to put on the side. We're going to get started with our lilac ones, or this is more purple than lilac. I thought I was wearing a shirt that matches, but no. Mine is definitely more lilac and this is more purple. I have 2 bushels of this purple flower, and now I'm going to start putting it in, and we're still going to be mirroring. As I'm putting the purple ones in, I want to make sure that I don't go higher than my center flower, because we do want that dome effect. 2 here, let's put 2 here, and I'm going to mirror on the other side. Now I'm going to focus on my sides. I have a center white lily right here. I'm going to put 2 purple flowers on the sides right here. And do make sure that they're lower than your main side one, just like this. They're just a little lower than this main one on the side. Is anybody else smiling looking at this yet? Because I'm absolutely ecstatic how beautiful this looks. The last 2 I'm putting on the sides of this main one. So far, this is what we have. How gorgeous. Now watch the magic when we bring the yellow ones in. Yellow works so perfect with the purple. Let's start mirroring this. This is so exciting. Let's start with the sides right here. Now I'm going to put some on the sides right here. And I'm going to make sure they come a little lower than the purple ones. That is going to help us hide some of that greenery. The last 4 I'm going to put on the sides. Here's 1. I'm going to put 1 more on here and 2 on this side. I went ahead and cut down the last bushel of the white lilac just to fill in here and there. Wherever you see holes, fill those in. Mostly I'm doing it on top to give it fullness. For those who love making centerpieces, how satisfying is it to hear the little crackle of the foam when you're putting those flowers in? I love it. This is what we have so far. I think it's so beautiful and absolutely simple. So I am going to grab some moss and I'm just going to fill those areas in. And it's okay, have the moss peek through. I think it looks pretty. It just looks like, you know, your plants are growing between grass somewhere. It's beautiful. Next, I'm going to be using these Easter egg picks. In each pack, you will find 2 colors of each. So this was a few packs, but you know, I'm just using the purple and the yellow. So next time I'll use maybe the pink and the green or something. You can work it. So I'm grabbing these and I'm just going to start scattering them. You really don't want to mirror something like this because you already have the shape. Your bouquet is all done. And you don't want it to look, you know, kind of robotic almost. So just kind of scatter them throughout. And we are done with this bouquet. Louie was with you the whole time watching all 10 of the wreaths. He's such a trooper. Thank you so much for staying with us. Let me know in the comments below which one was your favorite. If you enjoy tutorials like this, I have wreaths for pretty much any season, any holiday, non-holiday, birthday, whatever else we can think of. Let me know if there's a wreath that maybe you thought of that I don't have. Definitely let me know in the comments below so that I can put it on my list. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the thumbs up button. And of course, for more wreath tutorials, I have 2 videos for you right here if you would like to see more right now. With that being said, thank you so much. Have a beautiful, beautiful day, and we will see you in the next video. Or are you going to take a nap? Nap? Aww. Louie's taking a nap.